Okay, good morning, everyone. We are now Perches Mishna Hey. It's a continuation from the previous Mishnah. The previous Mishnah had said that we cannot use money that has the sanctity of Shemitah or the fruits themselves of Shemitah to pay for something. So therefore, the Mishnah previously said that if you go into a store and buy a loaf of bread, so when you buy it, if you're just gonna take it as usual and then you're gonna pay him back, you can't use either Shemitah money or Shemitah fruit to do so. But in the case where when you took it from him, you said, when I collect vegetables, I'm going to bring to you, there is understood that it's not meant to be a payment, but a gift for a gift, then that would be okay. So now this halacha of not paying with money that has the sanctity of Shemitah produce, that discussion now continues in today's Mishnah, Mishnah Hey. You cannot give Shemitah money neither to a bayar, means a well digger, nor to a balon, means the bath housekeeper, sapar, not to a barber, sapan, and not to a boatman. So all these are people that you will be paying them for their services. The buyer is the well digger. He was the one that supplied everybody with their water. The balon is the person who took care of the bathhouse. The sapper is the barber, and the sapan is the boatman. When people had to travel through water on rafts, they had to have someone that was going to steer it. That's the sapa, that's the boatman. So in all these cases, the Mishnah is saying you cannot pay them with the Shemitah money. So as the Adavram points out, that each one has a specific reason as to why the Mishnah mentioned it. So for instance, when we talk about the bathkeeper and the barber, those were services that provide body needs or body comforts. One might have thought that that's similar to eating, because that's similar, that usage itself is similar to eating, which you could use Shemitah produce. You can use Shemitah produce for eating. So to use Shemitah to pay for something that's similar to eating, one would have thought that's okay. And the Mishnah says, no, in the cases of the barber or the bathkeeper, it doesn't help. Also, mentioning the sapan, the person who's the boatman, clearly that was a very, very important need. And one would have thought that for those services, one could use Shemitah money for it. The Mishnah says you can't. Now, regarding the well digger, the Mishnah is not going to qualify that. You can use the Shemitah money or the Shemitah produce to pay the well digger if the purpose of what he's doing it for is specifically for drinking water. If the purposes of why he's dealing you the well is specifically for drinking purposes, for that you are allowed to use the Shemitah produce. For that, we don't extend and say that it's like business, like you using the Shemitah money, Shemitah produce for commerce, you can't pay for that. If you're paying for such a basic need like drinking water, the drinking water, we say you would be able to use the Shemitah produce for that purpose. The Mishnah that said before that you can't pay a well digger is talking about that the uses of the water are all uses. It could be for laundry, it could be for eating, it can include eating, but it's for other purposes also. Those purposes would not be permissible if you were doing them with Shemitah. You can't, let's say, use Shemitah produce as some kind of a detergent. You can't do that. And therefore, once it would be going for those kind of purposes, we say that you cannot use the Shemitah money, the Shemitah produce to pay, because then we're concerned that it looks like commerce. But when you're talking about something as basic as drinking water, which drinking is actually the act that you can do with Truma, there we do not extend this prohibition of not being able to pay with Shemitah money or Shemitah produce. So therefore, the point of the Mishnah talking about the well digger is very clear. There are different scenarios as to whether you can actually use the Shemitah money or the Shemitah produce to pay him or not. And for all these people, you can give it as a gift, meaning as long as you don't go ahead and it's very clear that when you're giving this to any one of these people who are doing you a service, it's a gift. And even though you know that with this gift, he's not going to ask you for payment. Nonetheless, if at the end of the day, you're giving it explicitly as you're giving it as a gift, the halacha is you can do it as long as as long as the gift is not explicitly given as payment. I'm giving you this gift for what you did. If you just say you're giving him a gift, although he's not going to ask you for money afterwards for the service, it's going to be permissible. If somehow or another you say to him it's a gift for your services, so to speak, like a gratitude for what you did, that would be considered a payment that you wouldn't be able to do. If you just give him a gift without mentioning anything about what was done for you, although he's not going to ask you for the payment for it, it is permissible. Okay, that's the end of today's Mishnah. Now we'll do the Sefer HaMitzvot. Okay, mitzvahs lo yisaseh shelo yotzeis b'Shabbos chutz l'tchum. Prohibition against going outside of the boundary, the city boundary, on Shabbos. Now, today the Chavetz Chaim is going to tell us something very interesting about this law. Many of us are familiar with the idea of Tchum Shabbos, that there's a prohibition going a certain distance outside of the city limits on Shabbos. So the Chavetz Chaim says like this: Shenemar, as the pasuk says. Now the Chavetz Chaim is telling us it's a prohibition. That means there's a Torah prohibition involved in this. Shenemar, as it says, Al Yetze Ish B'Mekayimei B'Yom HaShvi. No person should go out from his place on the seventh day on Shabbos. Don't go out from your place. Don't go out from your city. Now, what does that mean? V'zehu, and this is Hamahalach Chutz La'ir, one who goes outside of a city. Yoiser Mishneim Asar Mil, more than 12 mil. I don't know the exact, conversion into miles offhand, but this is more than the 2,000 cubits that people right away think about when they think about Tchum Shabbos, going outside of the city limits on Shabbos. This is much more than that. This is 12 mil. To go further than 12 mil outside of a city, Fila Ama Achas, this should step one more cubit, one more step outside of those 12 mil. And where does the amount of 12 mil come from? Keneged Machane Yisrael Shaya Bamidbar. This distance corresponds the length of the Machane Yisrael, of the Israelite camp in the desert. In the desert, the Jewish people were traveling through the desert for 40 years, from leaving Egypt to coming to Eretz Yisrael. So there are three camps. It was Machane Shechina, the camp of the divine presence. That was the area where the Mishkan, the tabernacle, was. Around that camp was the Machane, the camp of the Leviim, of the Levites, Moshe, Aaron, and all the Leviim. And then outside of that, you had Machane Yisrael, the Israelite camp where everybody else lived. So the Israelite camp was a length of 12 mil. And that's the amount that we say that if you walk out of the city limits more than 12 mil on Shabbos, Leikim and Torah, you get lashes from the Torah. It's a full-fledged Torah prohibition that carries lashes. But if, let's say, you walk only 2,000 cubits outside of the city, Shumigra Sha'ir, the 2,000 cubits outside of a city is called the Migrash. It's called the open area. The Torah says that every city should have an open area around it. And that open area, it's talking about the cities of Eretz Yisrael, it should have an open area around it, and that area is 2,000 cubits. So if you go further than that, further than the city's open area, that is forbidden to do, but that is only forbidden midrabanan. Like amakas mardis. For doing that, you're not going to get lashes from the Torah, you're going to get lashes of disobedience. This is the opinion of the Rif and the Rambam, that there is this distinction, that there is a Torah prohibition that carries lashes if you go more than 12 mil. And if you only go 2,000 amas, then you're not going to be, you wouldn't get lashes from the Torah. It's not a Torah prohibition. In the brackets, he writes, there are many of the Rishonim, of the early authorities, that are of the opinion that it's not only 2,000 cubits that's going to be forbidden from the Torah. It can be even many, many miles. The whole concept, the whole prohibition of going outside of the city limits on Shabbos, walking outside of the city limits on Shabbos, no matter what distance, is only midrabanan, only rabbinic prohibition, according to many opinions. And even according to those opinions, when does the rabbinic prohibition start? It starts at more than 2,000 cubits. Now, when you measure these 2,000 cubits, these are square cubits, because we're making it a square around the city, you now gain the corners. If it be a circle, you lose out on that. So therefore, it's a square of 2,000 cubits in order to gain the area of the corners for your moving. Ubeir, if we're talking about within the city itself, you can walk through the entire city. It can be huge. It can be many miles. It can be more than 12 mil. It can be as big as it is. As long as you're within the city, you're allowed to traverse the entire city, no matter how big it is. And there is no even rabbinic prohibition on that. This applies in all places, at all times, both by men and by women. Have a wonderful day.